On 9th September 2022, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, passed away. She, of course, was the longest living monarch of Britain and has seen the monarchy go through some incredible changes over the years. Now, to be honest, I am not a big fan of the monarchy. Being from India, which was one of the colonies of the British Empire, I know of the terrible period in history that India went through to help sustain the glory of the British Empire and of the monarchy. So when I heard of her passing, I was as sad as one could be about hearing that another human had passed away. But for me, she was mostly a reminder of everything that had been taken from India and from many other colonies to give her the privilege that she was just born into. The only good thing, according to me, that has come out of all of this nonsense is the show The Crown, of which I am just waiting for the next season. However, another thought came to my mind as soon as I heard of her passing, and that was of the stark difference of opinion she and her successor, Prince Charles, or I should say King Charles now, have of what constitutes good architecture. So in this video, let's take a look at what styles of architecture do these two monarchs prefer and exactly what we can expect to be the future of the built environment of Britain. When she was sworn in as the Queen, Elizabeth was quite young. In the year 1952, the London skyline looked like this. It was dominated by churches, cathedrals and palaces, and the tallest building in Britain was the St. Paul Cathedral. And today it looks like this. Oh, I meant this. Steel and glass towers now scale the heights of London. The thing about Queen Elizabeth II is, unlike her ancestors, there is no one distinct architectural style that has emerged during her reign. The world has changed completely since when she first became queen, and she has moved with that world. Her time as the queen is filled with plurality of architectural styles, from brutalism to modernism to high-tech modernism of Rogers and parameticism of Zaha and countless others. London today is a completely different city, one that a young Elizabeth would not even recognize. And yet, over the years, just like with political sides or with prime ministers, the Queen has never shown favoritism. She has inaugurated many buildings over time and has approved and presented a lot of medals and awards to architects who are quite distinct in style from one another. For example, the Royal Gold Medal, which is awarded by the Royal Institute of British Architects on behalf of the British monarch, has been presented to both Charles Correa and Richard Rogers. Both of these were within Elizabeth's reign. Both are widely different from each other. But this inclusive nature and acceptance of plurality has never been shared by her son. Prince Charles, or King Charles now, has been very vocal about his preference in the style of architecture, and it is to go back to the classical elements. A style that focuses on locally sourced materials, on people and their scales, and not one that is focused on exploration and strength of materials. Perhaps the time he made the biggest waves was in 1984, when the RIBA invited him to give a speech to mark its 150th anniversary. In that speech, he went full Kanye West and criticized modern and postmodern architecture. The speech was filled with attacks, but probably the most famous line from the speech was this.
You have, ladies and gentlemen, to give this much to the Luftwaffe. When it knocked down our buildings, it didn't replace them with anything more offensive than rubble.
Luftwaffe, for those of you who do not know, was the German Air Force branch during the World War II. So basically he said at least they destroyed buildings, but did not replace them with structures that he found to be deplorable. That speech created shockwaves, cost some architects their projects, and even drew criticism from a lot of people. Ever since, he has taken a lot of opportunities to condemn the new modern style of building. He even had a very public feud over the years with the Pritzker-winning architect Richard Rogers. Richard once even challenged the prince to debate him publicly. But of course, that never happened. You might think, who is he to be that vocal about architecture and design, and might dismiss it as a privileged man meddling in affairs he knows nothing about. But that would be a wrong assumption. Yes, he is a privileged person whose privilege came from looting my country for 200 years. Sorry, I could not resist. But he's quite well read on architecture and design. He even has a design school called the Princess Foundation School of Traditional Arts. As described on the website, the Princess Foundation School of Traditional Arts is a part of a group of charities which reflect the Prince of Wales's profound interest in some of the most relevant and pressing challenges facing the world we live in today. If you guys remember, last year I even interviewed Chantel, who shared her experiences of working as a senior architect in the Princess Foundation. Over the years, the Prince, or the King now, has created documentaries, published books, and articles about design, architecture, and its place in the future of Britain. But the things he believes in are not just random colonial glory of the past era nonsense. He talks about architecture today and its future. In 2014, he gave his 10 principles of architecture in an article published in the Architectural Review. And to be honest, a lot of what he talks about is something a majority of architects talk about and believe in. The article was actually a great read, and I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check it out. He has even created an experimental city called Poundbury to test and demonstrate his theories on space making. And honestly, the man has become more mellow as the years have passed. In 2009, Charles returned to speak at the RIBA to mark the Institute's 175th anniversary. In a more softened speech and addressing the ramifications of his previous appearance, he said,
and that is that I'm sorry if I somehow left the faintest impression that I wish to kickstart some kind of style war between classicists and modernists, or that I somehow wanted to drag the world back to the 18th century. All I asked for was room to be given to traditional approaches to architecture and urbanism.
Now when all is said and done, one question still remains. That now he is the king, will he be able to meddle in the affairs of Britain and how it is shaping up? Because there were times when he used his influence and privilege to cost some architects their commissions. Well, in 2018, Charles answered this very question. He told the BBC, "I'm not that stupid. I do realize that it is a separate exercise being sovereign. So of course, I understand entirely how that should operate. The idea somehow that I'm going to go on in exactly the same way if I have to succeed is complete nonsense because the two situations are completely different." And this probably also gives us insight into maybe why the Queen never spoke of her interests. As a monarch, maybe her role was that to encourage, to champion whatever the people champion. Maybe she didn't let her personal opinions guide her and was happy with the way the profession of architecture was evolving, because maybe that is what the people wanted. If there is one thing I've learned from the show The Crown, it is this.
Not having a voice is something all of us have to live with. We have all made sacrifices and suppressed who we are. Some portion of our natural selves is always lost.
Of course, I realize it is a fictional show, but maybe there is some truth to this fiction. So maybe, just maybe, now that he is king, Charles will follow in her steps. Now, what will be the future of this profession and how much sway a king has on a built environment? Only time will tell. Only one thing is for certain, that the whole system of monarchy is a facade to all the horrible things the British Empire did in the past, and also the Kohinoor which sits in the crown was from India and a lot of people would like it back. Yeah, that is the only certain thing. Anyway, what do you think about this attachment to classical architectural style? And what do you think will happen now that there is a new king? What will be the impact on the built environment, if any? Let's discuss below. As always, before leaving, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, to share it, and to subscribe to Blessedarch. If you like the content that I create on this channel and would like to support Blessedarch, you can do so via Patreon, via channel memberships, and via PayPal. The link will be in the description below. And that was it, you guys. I will see you guys soon with more such content. Until then, bye bye.